only my third video, but I'm going to do another tag video. Rather like watching tags, so thought I'd do one. Wasn't tagged by anyone, but who would tag a goblin? So the tag I'm going to do is the 7 deadly sins tag. It's an interesting one. So I suppose I'll get straight to it. The first tag is greed. It's one of my favourite sins, generally. Do like a bit of greed, particularly when it's me being greedy. Anyway, sorry. So, got some stuff written down. Yes. So the question is, what's your most inexpensive and expensive books? Well, don't know how much interaction you might have had with goblins, but you may or may not know, goblins don't really buy into the concept of human currency. I mean, take the example of buying books. Who would be willing to swap one piece of paper for a book full of pages? It makes no sense. Anyway, so goblins tend to use items to trade, and our primary item of trade is the delicious yeast extract Marmite. It's quite rare to come across a full tub of it. So every goblin will know that a full tub of Marmite is worth generally 13 used tubs of Marmite, from which you can usually scrape some of the delicious extract. Anyway, where was I? Books, yes. So, most inexpensive book is quite easy, actually. Since they built a library above my cave, I generally just borrow books from the library. Might even return some of them someday. As for my most expensive book, the one I've paid the most Marmite for, that would likely be my most recent hardback purchase. Hardbacks are expensive. I resent paying out the Marmite for them. So that would probably be one of the latest Wheel of Time books. They were quite chunky. Good value for money though, based on weight. So the second of the sins is wrath. Which author do you have a love-hate relationship with? Now that's actually quite an easy one. The answer is David Eddings, an author of epic fantasy. He's written quite a lot of books, kind of. So the first of David Eddings' books that I read were the 5 books of the Belgariad. A big epic fantasy story, very enjoyable. If you haven't given it a try, I recommend you do. After reading them, I would have said that I really quite loved David Eddings. So I went on and read some more of his books. Here we have the 5 books of the Malorian. Look very similar. Read very similar. That was the problem. I read the Malorian and had an extreme sense of deja vu all the way through. It's basically the same story. Changed a few characters' names, or even all of them. Changed a few place names, plot's the same. So, it rather seemed that David Eddings was the only author I know to have plagiarised himself. and I felt really quite cheated at the end of it that I'd invested so much time reading the same story twice. So I quite quickly went to hating David Eddings. Next on the list is gluttony. What's the question? Yes. What book have you devoured over and over again with no shame? That one took a bit more thought, because there have been several books that would fit that description. But the one I'm going to choose, down here, Magician by Raymond Feist. Honestly, this is actually not even my original copy, which I read so many times, it kind of disintegrated. So I borrowed another one. I love so many of the characters in this book, especially Pug, but Thomas and Aretha, one of the best. Give it a try. What's next? Got my little scrap of paper still. Sloth. Another excellent sin. So which book have you neglected through laziness? Well, yeah, I have a host of other David Eddings books on the shelves. Probably never going to read them. Refer to my earlier comments about Mr. Eddings. But my choice of answer to that question is probably the latter books of the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. I believe I read sort of the first 6 of those books, quite big books, big investment. Then I kind of stopped. Don't really know why. I have the books around here somewhere. In my musty old cave. Just haven't read them. I might one day, you never know. Pride. What book do you talk about to sound like an intellectual? Well. I did read A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Quite an interesting read, but not that enjoyable, so that probably wouldn't be my choice. Yes, this one. What If? By Randall Munroe. Also, a very interesting and scientific book, but at the same time, entertaining and enjoyable to read. It's specifically described as being serious scientific answers to absurd hypothetical questions, such as, what would happen if absolutely everyone jumped at the same time? How could we build a Lego bridge between London and New York? Both excellent questions, with surprisingly complex answers. I think, I think my favourite answer in the book was, what would happen if you gathered a mole of moles? That's a mole, which is a very large number used in science, of moles. The small sort of furry creature that likes to dig. Now the answer, because a mole is such an astonishingly large number, is that many moles would bury the entire surface of the Earth about 80 kilometres deep. There's an excellent diagram to illustrate this, which many of the answers have. So yes, entire planet, almost to the edge of space, buried in furry creatures, would be the answer to that ridiculous question. And obviously we'd all died, suffocated under the moles. Not very pleasant. The penultimate sin is lust. What do you find most attractive in a character? Well, being a goblin would be a good start. But that really narrows down the field in most books. So ignoring that, I would say a character that is willing to make a great personal sacrifice. A selfless act is probably the most attractive thing in a character. Bet you didn't think goblins could be so deep. Now finally, envy. What book would you most like to be given as a gift? Well, I've never had a gift. It's not really a very goblin-like thing to do. So pretty much any book or any gift would be lovely. Yeah. So, that's the end of my 7 Deadly Sins book tag. Hope it wasn't too dull or deep or frustrating. I guess at this point I could probably add what I'm planning to read next. Seen some other booktubers do TBR piles. As a goblin, I don't really have a TBR pile, but I have a vague idea of the next book I'll read. Where's it gone? It was a Horry something. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Oh, not Horry. Sorry, Harry. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, might give that a go next. I think I've heard it mentioned on BookTube before, actually. Maybe some of you have heard of it. Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. So yeah, probably read that next, and that will be my next video. Bye then. I guess I'll get to this.